sound of a chime. And as that vibration fills the air, I invite you to allow spirit to become your focus as we turn within and affirm together that this day unfolds perfectly. We are grateful for this time to be together, for this technology that connects us. And I know that this service is blessed, where we dedicate it, Spirit, to your glory, knowing that you are here in the midst of us and you are the wisdom that guides us, lives through us, and speaks through us as we share together this morning. And so I bless the service and each person here. I bless each person that will listen to this service in the future, knowing that it is all perfect. I release my word and join me in saying together, and so it is. As we begin, I also would like to light our unity candle. That has always worked with every trial. There it is. This candle represents that flame of spirit that's in each and every one of us. That spirit that is the life of us. And so I bless that light that shines forth from within each and every one as we gather together this morning. I would also like to let you know that if you would like to bring a unity candle and light that as we begin each service, I invite you to do that. And you can have it there with you in your own sacred space. So welcome. I'm glad you're here with us this morning. And as we begin our service, I'm going to share with you our opening song. And this morning, our opening song is by Denise Rosier, and the song is God Within Me.
I love with the heart of God within me. I sing with the voice of God within me. I rest in the peace of God within me. Everything praises God within me. I know with the mind of God within me. I pray with the faith of God within me. I trust in the power of God within me. Everything praises God within me. I am a safe and loving place, born of beauty and amazing grace. I laugh with the joy of God within me. I shine with the light of God within me. I am who I am because of God within me. Everything praises God. Everything praises God. Everything praises God within
And now our practitioner of the day, Pat, will share our spiritual reading.
Okay. Well, first I want to, before I read this section from Science of Mind and Ernest Holmes, I want to thank everybody for all the emails and comments about the gratitude, love meditations we did in November and December. I was very moved that everybody embraced those to such a degree. And as promised, I have a short one for January, which we agreed would be peace, that these last 90 days would be filled with gratitude, love, and peace. And if you can see your chat, you'll see the peace quote that you can carry with you and say every day to remind you that you are peace is this: in this moment, I see the sky above, feel the earth below, and know peace within. Today, I am love, the purest form of a soul at peace. So we will put that in our update this week, so you will have it and you can copy it from the chat if you would like. Today's reading comes from page 31 of the Science of Mind textbook. Experience has taught us that the subjective tendency of this intelligent law of creative force may consciously be directed and definitely used. This is the greatest discovery of all time. There is no mystery here, but a profound fact and a demonstrable one. The road to freedom lies not through, mysteries or occult performances, but through the intelligent use of nature's forces and laws. The law of mind is a natural law in the spiritual world. But what do we mean by spiritual world? We mean the world of conscious intelligence. The conscious mind is spirit. The subjective mind is law. One is a complement to the other. No real individuality could be expressed without a combination of both. And so it is.
Thank you, Pat. And now we move into our time of message. And in January of every year, most of the Science of Mind centers throughout the world will take this time to step back and review the basics of Science of Mind philosophy. I think this is important for all of us to do because it makes sure that we are building that firm foundation for ourselves, a firm foundation that is the basis of building our philosophy, of building our spiritual practice, and of knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Today, my talk is titled Timeless Wisdom, because that's what our philosophy is. Timeless wisdom gathered from religions around the world. So the title, Timeless Wisdom, what is the thing itself? And the spiritual principle that I'm addressing today is the omnipresence of spirit, along with the many names that can be used for God. Our textbook begins with chapter 1, titled The Thing Itself. So from the very beginning here, Ernest Holmes is teaching us that there are many names we can use for God, for spirit. Now, in the Christian tradition, in the Holy Bible, it starts with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It goes on in the Bible to talk about how God created everything. In our textbook, it looks at how this creative intelligence of the universe created man and what that means for us. This creative intelligence is all there is. It is omnipresent, which means it's everywhere present. There's not a spot that God is not. So this Spirit is in us, through us, all around us. It's everywhere, in every country, in every place, in every particle of air, and in all form. This is Spirit. There is not God and an opposing power. And I bet most of us had learned that there was God and the devil. There was God and evil, good and evil. But what we know in religious science is that God is all there is. This one power, one presence, this creative intelligence makes all things out of itself. Now, what I want you to understand is that as Spirit makes everything out of itself, what then are we made out of? Well, I hope you're following with me that we're made out of Spirit also, because there's nothing else. And Ernest Holmes, throughout the Science of Mind textbook, uses many different names for this power. And the reason is that Ernest is trying to divorce us from the clutch of what God was in our childhood. I bet that many of us grew up with the idea that this creative power, God, as some would call it, was outside of us, and that we were separated from it, and we must find some kind of a way to be reconnected to it. For some religions, to get reconnected with this source, with power, with God, meant you had to be baptized. For other religions, there were certain prayers that you must say. Still others required that you follow a set of rules, and that was the key to the relationship with God. With some traditions, there was a holy person who would intercede for you. That might be a priest, a rabbi, an elder. And some religions say that it requires the blood of Jesus in order to have a relationship with God. In Science of Mind, we know that God, this creative intelligence of the universe, is within each and every one of us. There is no separation. And there can't be any separation because it's all God. On page 25 of the textbook, it says, to suppose that the creative intelligence of the universe would create humankind in bondage and leave it bound would be to dishonor the creative power that we call God. To suppose that God could make humankind as individuals without leaving them to discover themselves would be to suppose an impossibility. It says the seed of freedom must be planted in the innermost being of humankind. But, like the prodigal son, humankind must make the great discovery for itself. You see, that is our work, is to discover that spirit within us, to discover that we are the creative intelligence of the universe. We are at one with it. This creative intelligence, as we're calling it this week, the thing itself, is implanted within all creation. And it's up to us to discover the power that is within ourselves. Now, I bet that most of you will remember The Wizard of Oz. And in The Wizard of Oz, do you remember that Dorothy wanted to go back to Kansas? And so she asked Glinda, the Good Witch, to send her back home with her magical powers. Glenda, what did she say to her? Glenda said, "Oh, my dear, you've always had the power to go home. You've had it all along." You see, Dorothy had the power to click her ruby slippers together and say there's no place like home, and it would transport her back home. We have always had the power to connect with spirit within ourselves. This creative intelligence of the universe, this one power, one presence is within us, and we have the power to turn to it, to connect with it. We don't even have to have ruby slippers. You can be in your house shoes or your bare feet. And just turning within, you don't even have to click your heels. You are able to connect with spirit. Just as Dorothy had to be aware of the power within her, we have to be aware of our thoughts. We use our power to connect with spirit by thinking correctly. In the science of mind, we tell people, we don't tell you what to think, but we tell you how to think. And that's what we want to teach, is we want to teach each person how to think for themselves. Thinking or thought, as defined in the glossary of our textbook, says that it's a movement in consciousness. It's when we move our consciousness from our humanness, looking at the limitation of our humanness, to looking at the infinite possibilities as spiritual beings. When we look for the affirmative, the positive, the good in everything, that's what we're going to find. We'll find that good. In our textbook again on page 27, Ernest says, "Let us then approach the science of mind, the science of spiritual psychology with awe, but not with fear, with a truly humble thought, but not with a sense that we are unworthy." I believe that this is where many traditional religions have failed us in telling people that they were unworthy, that they were sinners, and that they were separated from God. We're all made of this God, this one power, this one presence, this divine substance. There's nothing except it. So we have to be one with it. We can say God is all there is. Do you remember last week when I told you about my teacher, Reverend Dr. Alma Stevens? She's here with us today in this service. And how she would always say, "Rick, either you believe God is all there is or you don't." I truly believe God is all there is. Everything is made of God. And therefore, I know that God doesn't make mistakes. Spirit is the creation of everything, and there's nothing outside of spirit, so there's nothing other than spirit for us to see creation as. God is all there is. It's all God, it's all good. So I know to train my mind to look for the good in everything. When we align ourselves and align our thinking with God, the good, then we can learn to use the law of life itself. We create the world we want to live in. Ernest Holmes goes on in this chapter to say, let us approach it. He's talking about life here. Let us approach it normally, happily, willing to accept, glad to experiment, hoping and believing that as a result of our efforts, we shall derive a great good, a sound understanding of the natural laws of life. Isn't that a nice invitation? That we get to experiment with the laws of life. You see, this life is our laboratory, and so we are encouraged to try it out, to see what works for us. What resonates with our heart, with the spirit within us? And this is the true metaphysical teaching, the study of life and the laws of nature. You may have heard it explained before, and if you haven't, I want to explain it to you. There are two sides to God. There is the side of God, which is unconditional love. That love that we look for and search for, it's right there. And we talk about God is love. The other side of God is the law. The law is that impersonal side of God. The law is the part that acts on our subconscious. This was in the reading that Pat shared with us this morning. Our conscious mind goes to the love. Our subconscious mind pulls on the law. And so love and law is what God is, and it's operating within us. We're always using it, whether we know it or not. Even if we're being negative, if we're looking at lack and limitation, what are we going to find in our life? Lack and limitation. So the law is working, even if we think it's not working. Have you looked around the universe and noticed the abundance? Ernest Holmes, our founder, says, "We cannot count the grains of sand on a single beach. The earth contains untold riches, and the very air is vibrant with power. Why then are humans weak, poor, and afraid? The divine plan," he says, "is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul." I want you to understand this for yourself, that you are bound by nothing. You are bound by nothing except your belief. If you can look at nature and see that nothing there is bound, the birds are free, the plants are growing, even those seeds that are planted in the crack of a rock have that power within them to spring forth into life and to crack that rock open further. We are made for freedom, the freedom of our mind to embrace endless possibilities. And those endless possibilities are offered to us each and every day. We are the only ones that can limit our experience of life. And we do that by limiting our thinking. By thinking that things have to be a certain way. Well, this is how it's always been in the past, so that's the only way it can be. And I invite you to step into a bigger view of God, a bigger view of life within yourself. The study of science of mind is the study of first cause. Spirit, mind, that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff, the intelligence from which everything comes, the power back of creation, the thing itself. I think the biggest lie that's perpetuated throughout society is that somehow this power is outside of us. This is belief. And I choose to believe that this creative power, this intelligence of the universe, this thing itself, as Ernest called it, is buried within me. And I can turn to it at any moment, and I can realize more and more possibility and potentiality for my life. When we create a duality in our minds, when we create good and evil, when we see a polarity, then we start banging our heads against that constantly, because if that's what we believe, then that's what we see in life. That's why I choose to believe God is all there is. When we understand that the thing itself is operating in each and every person, then we understand there is perfection. Now, our humanness will have us see lack and limitation, but as spiritual beings, there is infinite potentiality for us. When we recognize that God is all there is, and that we are unified with it, we are one with it, at that point, it opens the door for us to utilize that law, to utilize it, to direct it, not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of everyone, the benefit of our world. Mental law is an attribute or expression of spirit. The thing itself, as we're labeling it today, it operates with unconditional love. The thing itself, you see, does not play favorites. One human does not have more favor with spirit than another. And that's the impersonalness of the law. Remember, I said spirit had two sides, that unconditional love and the impersonalness of the law that works for everyone. In the Bible, it says the rain falls on the just and the unjust. That means spirit treats everyone the same. The availability of all that spirit has is the same for everybody. It's not limited by who you are, where you live, the color of your skin, your sexual orientation, your bank account, anything. Spirit is open to all. Every opportunity is available to each and every one of us. This is the law of mind that's opening us to greater possibilities, or can hold us back if that's what we choose. Our capacity to think expansively, to love, and to use our energies to create situations that have never existed before is nothing less than some of our spiritual gifts. And I know that some people say they have no spiritual gifts. But creating a full life, a life of love, creating the world that you want, that is a spiritual gift that you have. And you give that to the world as you share your open heart, your love, your mind with everyone else. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, the one who is happy within, who rejoiceth within, who is illuminated within, that yogi, becoming eternal, goeth into the peace of the eternal. That has identical meaning to the saying of Jesus that we must be perfect, even as God in us is perfect. It calls us to recognize spirit as an indwelling presence, as well as an overshadowing power. You see, spirit lives within each and every one of us, but it's also all around us, in the very air that surrounds us. The divine providence of good, for the divine providence of good, salvation is unnecessary, but self-discovery is essential. If we believe that God is all there is, and that we are one with it, then there's nothing to be saved from. There's only God, Spirit, within us to be discovered. And that is my hope for the world, my hope for each and every person, that we will discover the God within us, the thing itself that is that creative intelligence and that lives within each and every one of us. That's what needs to be found and acknowledged. That is our spiritual essence. This is the core of our being. And it's the place within us that has never been ruffled, bothered, and it's a place where we are whole, perfect, and complete. We're not limited by our human thoughts and fears. We can find the unconditional love of God and that presence of the thing itself as we go within. Now remember, in the beginning, I said Ernest Holmes used many names for God, trying to divorce us from the God of our childhood. Different religions use different names. And the whole point here is whatever name we call this power that's greater than we are in the universe, it's not going to change the essence of it, for there is only one power, one presence. Some call it Elohim, some El Shaddai, Yahweh, Jehovah, Adonai, Abba, Father, Allah, Ishbar, All Glorious, Brahman, Ahura Mazda, and many, many, many more. There are so many names. If you Google it, you'll see articles on the 101 names of God or the 99 names of God. And it doesn't matter. I love the story that's told about Ernest Holmes speaking to a group. And when people were asking about the name, because they grew up calling that power greater than us God. And so, can I really call it creative intelligence? Can I call it the thing itself? Can I call it nature? And Ernest said, it doesn't matter what you call it. You can call it potato if you want. It's not going to change the nature of the one power, one presence in the universe. I bet some of you have heard the story that God's real name is Howard. There was a little boy who was praying, "Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be your name." So it doesn't matter what name we call Spirit. It's all one. And it's not going to change that essence that is within each and every one of us. My homework for you this week, you'll learn that I like to give you homework, something to play with during the week. So the homework is to try using some different names for God when you pray. You might even want to take one or two names and just repeat that during your meditation time. The work here is to be aware of how your body feels when you use a different name than what you have been using in the past. Does it clamp down and feel tight and restrictive, like it's not right? Or are you open to it? Play with it. It's the laboratory of life, so play with it and see what works for you. What's going to get you away from a limited view of God, if that's what you've had in the past, and allow you to be open to a more expansive view of God? A view that is all unconditional love and all the law of nature, the creative power that creates from all of our thoughts. Now, there's no right or wrong here. So as you do this practice this week, know that if something's not working for you, you don't have to use that name. Use whatever feels right for you. This is all about creating that spiritual space for ourselves. What works for us? Remember, I don't want to teach you what to think. I want to teach you how to think, how to pay attention to your body and what's resonating with your heart. So have fun with it as you play this week, utilizing some different names for God. See what's aware, what awareness you have. Make it fun. And now, let us move into a time of silence and meditation so that we can take in this message from today. Just continue to breathe and allow Spirit to speak to you. in the silence, we turn to that place within where we connect with Spirit. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God. Thank you, creative intelligence of the universe. Thank you, the thing itself, for always being here as we turn within. Thank you for the beauty of this time together, for realizing the spiritual truth that you are omnipresent, that you are everywhere, and that everything is made out of you. You are all there is, God, so therefore, there is nothing that opposes you. And for this truth, I am grateful. I breathe in that feeling of freedom. And so I invite each of us to breathe in the freedom of Spirit and breathe out love to the world. Breathe in freedom and breathe out love. I say thank you, thank you. Power and presence of the universe, nature, the divine one, infinite intelligence. Brahman, Yahweh, Elohim. Thank you that your power is within each and every one of us. And so I bless us as we celebrate together this spiritual truth. I release my word and we seal it by saying together, and so it is. Namaste.
Okay, we'll move right along here. Thank all of you for sharing from the heart. Our prosperity affirmation is in your chat. And I just want to thank you. As treasurer, I get to go to the post office and pick up your checks in the P.O. box, and I see your Givelify and your PayPal donations. It warms my heart, and with every one I post, I bless you immensely because we couldn't do this without you. So our prosperity affirmation, I will say it, and then we can repeat it together. In this new year, within a universe of infinite potential, I accept my ever-expanding good. Yes. And Vernon has put the P.O. box there. Let's say this together. In this new year, within a universe of infinite potential, I accept my ever-expanding good. Yes. And I also want to thank Vi and George for the book title I'll be working on. Shmoo is my God. So, and I sometimes get mistaken names, and I will call someone else Shmoo. And then I think, well, that's okay because God is within them too. So, you know, just spread that love around. All right, let's move on to announcements. First up, oh, we got slides this morning. This is so exciting. First up is the men's group. Isn't this great? Thursday, January 7th at 6:30 via Zoom. The same link that got you here will get you to the men's group. And then the next slide is for the board meeting via Zoom, same Zoom link as well. And that is Wednesday at 4:15 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. And so you can join us then. Oh, and this is the best one yet. January 24th, save the date. Reverend Dr. Ken Gordon will be our special speaker. We don't know his talk title yet, but it doesn't matter. He will be fabulous. So join us for that day. We know you'll be here anyway, but I just wanted to tell you that that was coming up. And that's all I have. And I think now I turn this back over to the Reverend, and he will offer our closing treatment.
Okay, for our benediction today, I invite you to join me in prayer. As we pause and turn within, taking a deep breath here, we know that, God, you are everywhere, everything. And so for the joy of this day, we are grateful. We're grateful for this whole service, for all the sharing, for the compassion of hearts, and how we can support one another in knowing the highest and best for each and every one of us, in knowing, Spirit, that you are the life and the breath that breathes each of us, and that for each request that was spoken here today, that you have that perfect outcome, that perfect healing and wholeness, the highest and best unfoldment, whatever that might look like for each and every individual. And so I bless us, and I bless each of our loved ones as we move forward into this week, knowing that you are the source of all that we have and all that we are. And join me in sealing this by saying together, and so it is. And now for our closing song, let me share this with you. Okay, there it is.
My religion is kindness, my church is nature, my God is a feeling that lives deep inside. My job is to be conscious, my path is forgiveness. My religion is kindness, and I practice it every day. Everyone has a story, everyone has pain. When we strip away our masks, we find we're really all the same. It's those little things we say and do that can mean so much. It's a smile, a connection, a simple love and touch. My religion is kindness, my church is nature, my God is a feeling that lives deep inside. My job is to be conscious, my path is forgiveness. My religion is kindness, and I practice it every day. Today I'm gonna ask myself, what more can I do? Be a radiant child of God, let my love shine through. Oh, let my heart be my guide to give the best of me. I'm gonna share my joy, share my love, give it boundlessly. My religion is kindness, my church is nature, my God is a feeling that lives deep inside. My job is to be conscious, my path is forgiveness. My religion is kindness, and I practice it every day. Yeah. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Then Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came running after. Said, Jack, tell me, what can I do to help ease your mind? He said, hold my hand and just be kind, and I know I'll be fine. My
And that was by Karen Drucker. So we are grateful.
Woo!
Thank you all for being here. Bless you as you go into your week. Know that you are loved and you are the love of Spirit moving out into the world. And so it is.